Now how in the fuck am I supposed to cope with the pain? Selling dope just for change, that's my role in the game. I got a soul but it's chained up. Now do I fold or do I stay up? Now I know I gotta change something. I made sacrifices, got paid back for fighting, but stayed laid back, will cipher my life. Cause I ain't never had a chance to succeed. Believe if I coulda, I woulda, but can't. So now I bleed, but not with my blood though, with tears and emotion. I fear what's in storage and the fear's just exploding. Holding this burden and I'm holding this curse in. So how the fuck can you blame me? I'm a person searching for forgiveness, but they treat me worse than those bitches who never did they dirt in. I put my work in and working towards the next best thing. Expect the unexpected, respect and disrespect. We'll die for our life, but we'll fight for a prize. All the pain and hurt, but it's good to be alive. Is it worth all the struggles? You got to decide. Survival of the fittest, we fight to survive.
My name's Mary and I'm an addict.
Hi, my name's Natalie and I'm an addict.
Yeah, the first time I knew about drugs was when I was 4. My dad was going into the cop shop to go and get searched and da-da-da-da-da. That's when like they searched you when you signed in. But he gave me a little dime bag and it was speed. I didn't know it then, but I know now that it was speed. And he told me to put it in my back pocket. And
I started using drugs when I was 14 years old. I started using and drinking on the weekends. It eventually turned into every day I was smoking weed, and I would be drinking on the weekends. I went to Bay Ridge High School. I grew up in a middle-class family. My dad's an electrician and my mom's a nurse. I played sports since I was younger. Always been involved in extracurricular activities. I never thought I'd become an addict.
hey, so Cody, how'd you first get introduced to drugs?
I was 11 years old and my mom's ex-boyfriend had some crack resin on the table, and he said, try this, it's weed resin, because I was already smoking weed before that, and I tried it, and then I was like jonesing out, and I had money, so then I went and got more, and then started off like that. And then growing up, chilling with the wrong people, hanging out, thinking I'm a gangster, and selling drugs, it's just not good.
Mm-hmm.
At Girl Guide Camp, I smoked my first joint, and it just like lifted off from there.
When I was first introduced to drugs, probably 5. I didn't start using until I was like 9. I started smoking weed, and then when I was like 14, I started doing like hard drugs.
So crack was your first drug?
Yeah, well, weed was, and alcohol. The year 2000, like Y2K, my mom let me drink alcohol because we thought the world was going to end and everything, so that was really my first, and then I started smoking weed, and then my mom caught me, and then she got mad, and then said she was going to chop my fingers off, and she like put my hand on the table and like took a meat cleaver and came like this close to my hand, and then next thing you know, she's handing me weed and stuff. And then I started smoking, like not smoking crack, I did it that once, and then I started selling it with my friends, and living in Vanier in Ottawa, in and out of jail for all my life just because of drugs and stupid shit like that. And then I got really bad into opiates because I was doing E and crack and coke and everything, and then I was just sick of that and started doing opiates, and that was like my drug of choice. I was struggling with that for like 4 years. The longest I could have I stayed off it was like 1.5 years, and now I'm clean. I've been clean for a while now. I'm on the methadone program, and it's doing really well for me. I'm moving down.
First time I used was I just met my mom, and then a year later, when I hit about 12, me and my mom sat like in the bathroom for, I don't know, days at a time, smoking speed. So that's the only way we got along, because we're too much alike. And that's how I was first introduced to drugs, like actually active in drug use.
I was 7 years old, and my brother gave me something in the form of paper, and I didn't know what it was, and he told me to put it in my mouth and to just suck on it. And then afterwards I went into like this trip that I didn't know really was happening, and I don't know what else to say about it.
to the touch when it hits your skin. I'm hazardous, like you never heard of this. And then you realize your time has come and I'm murderous. I'll live through your struggle, survive all your pain. Decide how you feel by the kind that I came. I'm a real solid guy, even though
My drug use, well, I use speed, so, and I smoke it either out of recently I started smoking it out of tinfoil, but before I used to smoke it out of light bulbs. I don't know, it started getting worse and worse after I hit rock bottom. I don't know, I just kept doing it more and more and more and more until I overdosed, and the cops found me. I was on the run for a year, and they found me and brought me to Cassidy House, in which I had the choice to go to Sundance or go to Portage in Guelph, and I decided to go to Portage. Portage was the best thing that happened to me.
That I used any drug, and it was acid is what it was, but I didn't know that. And then it just, afterwards it just spiraled out of control. I was 7 years old, and it started with that I did that, and then I started taking the odd puff off a cigarette or something, and then it just got to the point where I started smoking weed, and then I started getting into it was basically the same way with everybody. The weed is the gateway drug, and then it just leads on to drinking, and then when you're drunk you don't realize what's going on, so you end up just into it. So but by the time I was 8 years old or 9 years old, I was using steadily every day, and at that time it was, like I said, it was just weed and stuff, and then it led into more serious drugs.
Towards the end of school, I was using Special K and cocaine and drinking almost every night.
Well, I moved to Picton, and in Picton I started hanging out with the bad crowd, and we started doing weed more often, and then we started doing coke more often, and they started smoking crack, and I never did crack in Picton, but I got addicted to opiates like perks, oxys, and morphine, and then I was all out of options in Picton, so then I moved to this transition home in Belleville, and I thought it would be this big change, but no. Then I started doing coke with my friends, which then eventually turned into crack, so I started smoking crack and doing E on weekends as a party drug and crack throughout the week, and it got pretty bad, and my boyfriend almost OD'd a couple times, and then I moved to Kingston, to another transition home in Kingston, and started, I was going to be clean, and I was clean for about 2 days, and then my friend was like, hey, let's do speed, and I had never done speed, so I went and did speed, and he smashed it, and so I banged speed, and then was addicted from then on.
So yeah, my upbringing probably wasn't the greatest, because my mom was too high to really pay attention.
I feel that I have morals for myself now that I'm not using, and I had a relapse 8 months ago, and it was pretty bad. I almost lost my family. I almost lost, I did lose my girlfriend's family, but I didn't lose my fiance, or I lost my son over it.
I feel I did grow up in a good family life. My parents had good values and good morals, and they taught me everything they could. It was just, I didn't feel accepted in this world. I didn't feel a part of anything. I started drifting away from the family and sports and extracurricular activities, and I needed to find acceptance somewhere else, and that's where I found acceptance, is in that lifestyle.
History with my father. My dad's been in and out of jail. This is his first prison bit. He did 5 years and got out, was out for 16 days. Didn't spend very much time with me. He was with my boyfriend more than me. And now he's back in till next September. I don't know, like my dad's my best friend and all, but he chooses his friends before me. That's why he's in prison.
My mother used like morphine, Dilaudid, and yeah, she used intravenously. That's how you say that.
After high school, I went to college. My first program I took was police foundations. I started drinking almost every night. I would show up to class hungover or not show up at all. I ended up having to drop out because of my marks and because of my behaviors. I then took a year off school and I started smoking crack. I had 4 jobs and still couldn't support my habit. That boyfriend beat me up, and so we broke up, and I eventually stopped doing crack, but I started using speed. I stopped smoking weed, but only because I was using speed, and they were 2 counteractive drugs. One was an upper, one was a downer, and I liked the uppers. I went back to school and took a medical laboratory technician program. The first year I took it, I got kicked out because I was barely showing up to class. I was missing classes and I was getting high every day. I went back again to try it again because I really liked the course. The following year, I was still using up until the point where I got pregnant, which was in December. And I finished that year pregnant. I graduated from St. Lawrence with a medical laboratory technician degree, and I had my son that summer. When my son was 11 and a half months old, I fell asleep beside him inside the house, and he got outside into the pool and drowned. That was really difficult for me to handle and deal with, and by this point I didn't know what to do or how to live without him.
The first time I ever shot up, and it was probably the worst thing I ever done in my life, because once you start doing drugs that way, you never stop using drugs that way. You always you look for the next thing that can go in that fit, right? And it's just not, I don't know, it's just not, and then it leads into things like that you could end up with communicable diseases like Hep C or AIDS out of it, and I ended up with Hep C out of it, and I don't think I contracted Hep C from the needle. I contracted Hep C from doing tattoos in jail and shit. Is how I contracted it. What's just a lead from drugs, right? Drugs, jail, and then, it's just all the same.
And then you realize your time has come, and I'm murderous. I'll live through your struggle, survive all your pain, decide how you feel by the kind that I came. I'm a real solid guy, even though I got a soft side. I was there, helped you through a man when your mom's died. I fucking love you, dog, I'll never see you wrong. I'm that little extra push whenever beef is on. A mix of strength and courage, a bigger length and courage. You needed me to be around so it calms the hurting. This is the fallen curtain, and now the coffin's closed. Your soul's been captured, bro, and that is all she wrote. Face down, overdose, almost comatose. Sacrificial lamb, gotta have it just give me.
In the beginning, I was outside a lot and couch surfing, and then because that was I first became homeless in May, the end of May, middle of May, the end of May or something. So it was warm for months, and didn't care, if I was up for 5 days wandering around outside, it didn't really matter because it wasn't cold. I was high. And then I'd say once it started getting to September, October, I started staying at the Interval House.
Yeah, I spent 3 or 4 years on the street due to basically drug use. My family wouldn't put up with me anymore, so they just basically told me I had to leave at 14 or 15 years old, and then I ended up I got my life together somewhat. I ended up with the Hep C, and I ended up meeting a girl, and got my life together when I was 15, 16, and then ended back on the street the past, 6 or 8 months. So I spent probably 4 or 5 years, 4 years altogether in the street. It's shitty.
Yeah, no, I stayed at the interval house because, like, my ex was very abusive in, like, more, like, he was, like, mentally abusive, and we got into a few fist fights and stuff, so I just kept staying there, and then, like, we'd make up, and then I'd leave there, and then we'd go hang out somewhere for a few days, and then he'd get drunk, and it would be a fight all over again, so, I said it, like, the last time I was at the interval house, they told me that I have 28 files, which means every time you go in there, they start a new file. So in 2 years, I have 28 files, which is pretty crazy.
I did one day, but we threw some needles over there.
Well, panning isn't the best life to have. But I tell you something, hey kids, be smart, stay in school, and stay at home, and never be out here.
Injecting for about 2 months, and I was in my bedroom one night, and there was a mirror in front of me, and I had a sock tied around my arm and a needle in one hand, and ready to shoot up, and I saw myself in the mirror, and I thought, this isn't me. Who are you? Who is this person? Is this where I want to be? Who am I going to be in 10 years if I keep doing this? Is this really the person that I want to be and who I am? And unfortunately, I turned around, did the needle, but a couple minutes later, I went and I talked to my mom, and I told her what I was doing. That I needed to go away to rehab, that I needed help. And her response first was, no, you don't really have a drug problem. You just need a job. That'll solve everything. You just need a job. But she didn't realize how far along my drug habit had gotten and how bad it had gotten. So I had to roll up my sleeves and show her my arms. Then I was away in a rehab treatment facility up in Toronto. The week later. It was a blessing in disguise, because I've now learned how to change my life and how to live. I don't need to be sad all the time, and I don't need to think that there's no hope, because there is. There's always hope, and there's always time to change.
How in the fuck am I supposed to be a man? Throwing up gang signs more than wanna be a fan. I fight just to live, I live just to fight. I grew up reversed, so I never knew no right. I just wanna be the one striking fear in the youth, but at the same time I gotta deal with the